Yeah. With the expected response, the second aspect is about the nature of the language input and expected response, as we discussed last time.
Yeah, right. So what kind of input, right? So you have, it is not just like, for example, for listening, for reading, even speaking and writing, we have the input. For writing, the input is the prompt, the essay prompt. For reading, of course, we have the text, right, and also the instructions, right. It is similar for the speaking test, right. So you can see that the language, the input language can be the written, right, the written one, or the spoken, yeah, can be written or spoken language. So we must be careful because actually somehow um, we see that even though the students have the ability, right, a good high competence in certain skills and language and so on, but yeah, it is because the input that we give them is not clear, right, or like with a lot of problems or too challenging, right, and sometimes bias, right. So yeah, that somehow will prevent the candidate or the student to show what they have. Okay, right. So yeah, you can continue, Vin. Yeah, we talk about the response, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Talk about the restriction of the expected response, including restriction on the channel. That means the difference between face-to-face conversation or in the quiet rooms or noisy street. Restriction on format is related to the type or the form of the response. That means the specification of the task set by the task. Restriction on organizational characteristic. It include restrictions on grammatical form. For example, with the multiple choice test, where test takers are required to deal with the meaning of a specific pair of the words without the opportunity to express the equivalent meaning in their own words. The restriction on the organization of the course. For example, students may be asked to follow a specific rhetorical pattern when comparing and contrasting two things or arguing for or against a given proposition. The next term is about the restriction on propositional and illocutionary characteristics. For example, with the question, how many children do you want to have? Yeah, this can be referred to individual preferences as to family size or interpersonal relationship, a young man on his first day with a young woman.
Yeah. So this one should be taken into consideration, because actually what do you want, the way you have to provide the candidate with enough context, so he or she knows, is it a question for individual preference, or this is it shows, yeah, this is a conversation between a man and a woman, right? This is more like interpersonal relationship. It is not like the general terms for the whole family, like normally, yeah, it is like that. So we must, yeah, consider this one also. We have the channel, the format can be, right, okay, the organizational characteristics. What do we want? We have, yeah, which one is the best for the students to, yeah, to work on, okay, right, professional, yeah, or in illocutionary characteristics, yes, okay. Another one is the time of the response, right? Yeah, what do you expect them? How long you expect them to answer? So these also, yeah, the time you have to estimate. Yeah, how much time the, yeah, you want, or how much time the students, a normal student, right, an ordinary student, can answer or can, finish reading the input and so on. So we estimate, all right. So we remember there are restrictions, right? There are restrictions on expected outcome. It is just like, okay, I give you the answer and the question and you answer. We have to estimate, right? Yeah, different things like this, right? So when the next slide, please.
Yes. The next part we discuss about the relationship between the input and the response. There are three relationships. First of all, we call reciprocal. Reciprocal, that means an interactive negotiation of meaning. Adaptive relationship. And based on the test taker's response, input, with the feedback of the test taker. Adaptive relationship. And the next type of relationship we call non-reciprocal. That means no interaction between them. Yes.
Can you give us an example for this?
Yeah. So I would like to show you a small task to define what type of relationship here. Yeah. For example, now I would like to invite one of you read it for me. I would like to invite Miss Gum. Can you help me to read it?
You read the whole slide?
Yeah. The first example.
Okay. I remember talking about this earlier. Yeah.
Okay. Multiple choice test. If student answer correctly, the next question will be more difficult. If answer, the next question will be easier.
Yeah. Thank you, Miss Gum. Do you think it's a reciprocal, adaptive, or non-reciprocal relationship? I would like to hear some of your ideas.
Oh, you can type in the chat box, right? Number 1 is reciprocal, number 2 is adaptive, and number 3 non-reciprocal. All of you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, everyone, you can type number 1 if you see it's a reciprocal. Number 2, you see that as an adaptive reciprocal, and number 3, non-reciprocal. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Most of you see it a reciprocal relationship. Yeah, I will show the answer now. Yeah, it's an answer because the test taker response can be based to put the input of the test.
Normally, for this time we have a test like we call that one computer test, right? In different cases, sometimes when you take the test, we call that one computer adaptive test. Nó có một cái loại test đó mình gọi là computer adaptive đó. Tức là các bạn làm bài trên máy xong rồi nếu mà câu trả lời của bạn á, mà nó đúng nhiều á, thì người ta sẽ nâng cái độ khó của cái câu kế tiếp lên. Còn nếu mà bạn trả lời sai thì cái câu hỏi nó sẽ trở về bình thường hoặc là dễ hơn, gọi là computer adaptive. Thường nó được dùng cho cái computer, chứ cô chưa có nghe nói là bài kiểm tra giấy mà cái loại nào làm được như thế này. Okay, bởi vì nó tức thời mà nó xử lý cái câu trả lời của mình và nó chọn ngay, nó đưa cho mình cái câu hỏi kế. Bởi vì là thường là computer. Okay, yeah. Thank you. You put it as number 1. Actually, it is number 2.
Yeah.
Cái này hôm bữa cô có nói rồi á.
Yeah. Now we move to the next example. Yeah. The person A said that nearly midnight, and B answered, no, only because it's rain, cats, and dogs. Thanks a lot. Okay. What kind of relationship here do you think? You can type the chat for 1, 2, or 3.
Yeah, think carefully.
Oh, you think carefully. Most of you think it's non-reciprocal. That means no interaction between the input and response of the test taker. Yeah, it's so great. Yeah, I think the correct answer is number 1. Yeah.
Yes, number 1. Okay.
Yeah. That means it have the interaction between them. And the last one, I will show you an example of non-reciprocal relationship. Can you help me to read it out? Now, Mr. Yuli, can you help me to read it out loud?
Yeah, in a listening comprehension test, test taker listens to a conversation between 2 persons, and is it then asked by a third person a question about that conversation. In this case, the test taker is unable to interact with neither the participant in the conversation or the third person who asks him a direct question and receive no feedback on the relevance of his answer.
Thank you, Mr. Yui.
So, number 1, number 2, and number 3. Of course, number 3, right? Number 3. So you see, yeah, sometimes the definition is difficult to understand, but very good examples here, right? Adaptive, reciprocal. That means, yeah, you make meaning, and you are the one who, negotiate the meaning, right? And you join the conversation. But with the one that, we just process information without any interference, yeah, we call that one non-reciprocal. Okay, yeah. So see, we have different kinds of input, different forms of test, different kind of response you may expect from the test takers, right? So we think carefully which one is, the most appropriate, right? Next slide, please, Vin. Can you go back to the previous one? Yeah. You understand this table? All of you? Why we say reciprocal, we have the feedback, knowledge of relevance, correctness of response, and interaction response affects the subsequent input. And why for adaptive we say no and yes, and then for non-reciprocal we have, no and no.
Yeah,
any explanation?
Yeah, the reciprocal, it's not the close relationship between the input and the response, and it must be based on the response of the test taker to revise.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So one meaning, right? Yeah. What the test taker have to say or to write, next is somehow coined by the coming information, right? So we have back and forth, right? Back and forth. So the test taker have to wait for the message, and
Yeah.
then the response. And then, of course, the next input coming is also based on what the test taker say. So we have, like adaptation, adaption, right? I mean, language of ideas, one after another, right? So that's why you have, yes and yes for knowledge relevance. So and then the interaction. Adaptive, we have interaction, but we don't have the feedback, right? We just right. I think we better look at the column on the right hand side first, the last one, right? And then non-reciprocal, because we have no interaction. Right? We just
No feedback.
no feedback, no interaction, no feedback. The other one with interaction, no feedback. And of course, for the first time, or reciprocal, we have interaction and we have feedback. It's easy to understand.
Yeah, we'll look through some summarized ideas here about assessment of phases. Phases of the testing environment, we remind about the aspect of familiarity of the place and equipment, the personnel idea, time of teaching, physical condition, and so on. Phases of the test rubric, it's include about the test organization, the silence, the sequence, the related important parts, time allocation, the instruction with the language input, the channel, the specification of procedure and task, explicitness of criteria for correctness. Phases of the input with the channel and mode of presentation, form of presentation about language, non-language, or both. Vehicle of presentation, live, hint, or both. Language of presentation, native, target, or both. In identification of the problem with specific identification or general. Degree of studiness. Number 4, with the phases of the expected response, focus on the whole format of the expected response as we discussed in advance. The nature of language. Its length, propositional content, organizational characteristics, grammatic characteristics, restriction on response. And the relationship between the input and response. Then some summarized idea on the This kind of test contain and test method. We move on the next part.
Okay, so any questions so far for our friend? Các bạn có câu hỏi gì không? Cần tôi mở rộng thêm không? No, I feel like after I talk to you about the test and the final project, you keep quiet. So any question? So keep in mind, okay? Keep in mind, everything should be together and we have to think carefully, okay? Appropriately, right? To the context, to the learners, and to the purpose or the objective test, right? And also, in most of the cases, we have to think of the content, right? Which content should we test? Validity, reliability, right? How the test will be, graded. But here we focus more on input, right? And responses. What kind of input? What kind of responses? And here we have the rubric. Writing rubric is not easy. Actually, we have workshops again and again for teachers in the school, but still, is right. Some rubric may be, in detail, right, with description in detail, but some's just, a few words. So it's, but anyway, which one you think is easier to use? The one, with a few words or the one with the full description? Which one is easier to use? Các bạn, chứ cái rubric mà chúng ta kinh nghiệm chúng ta đã sử dụng á, thì cái nào là hay hơn? Thiệt là chi tiết hay là các bạn thích là nó ngắn gọn, nó vài chữ thôi?
Detail.
In detail. Have you ever been in situation like when you read the detail and you feel, oh, it's too complicated, you cannot understand?
I think yes.
Right, that happened to us, right? Last year, we were sent by the school to train, for grading and writing tests for VSTEP. We went. What happened to us is that sometimes, even though they give very detailed, I think maybe it's the way they write. I don't know, but we talk to each other, we say, oh, it's very confusing because sometimes we cannot understand what they mean, in their description. Yeah. And, right. So we just, compare the level according to the keywords. But the description sometimes is, incomprehensible and it's, too complicated. And it happens again when we translate into Vietnamese. It looks, awkward and funny. So it's So I think, a good rubric should be, should include enough information, but don't make it too complicated. So the readers cannot understand. All right. But if it is, we just give them a few words. Maybe we still have a gap there. Yeah, it's also difficult, right? And the question may be how much is enough, right? How much is enough, right? But we expect for a precise, succinct, all right, and clear. Yeah, the rubric is we can consider the rubric as the instruction for grading. Yeah, instructions for grading. And remember, we have different types of, grading schemes, right? You can look for information from examples like the ones for, the published one by, IELTS, right? IELTS and other type of tests, you can try Google and say, yeah. And you see, sometimes, right, we can divide, the grading scheme into what we call holistic. Chúng ta có những cái rubric ví dụ mình gọi là holistic này, cái dạng holistic. Rồi mình có cái dạng, sao cái máy của con đó holistic. Ok, mình có analytic. Or analytic, right? Analytic. Okay, right. And in the middle of analytic, we also have, some other kinds, but the easy one is the holistic, to see holistic and analytic. And can you explain to me what they are? Bạn nào có thể giải thích cô cái holistic với analytic này nó khác nhau sao các bạn?
Dạ, cái này tình của em chặt lát nữa cô.
Oh, vậy hả? Oh, okay, you keep it a secret. Sorry. Rồi, nhiều khi cũng hay lấn sân quá. Yeah, okay. Rồi, chúng ta cũng lường trước được là khi chúng ta cho một cái đề thi ra cái đề thi thì những cái gì mà mình cũng phải tiên lượng trước là người học họ sẽ xử lý như thế nào. Bài này chắc là nặng về phía của bạn Quyên rồi, của nhóm của Quyên rồi. Okay. Yes. So any more questions so far before we move on with the next presentation? Mm-hmm. No? Sao mọi người quiet quá? Thúy.
Dạ. Cô em muốn hỏi bạn Vinh về cái chữ can ở trong cái vehicle of presentation đó cô.
Ủa đó em. Đây.
Slide đang present. Số 3, face input thì nó có chữ vehicle of presentation thì nó có chữ can ở đây nè. Em muốn hỏi cái chữ can đó cô.
Vâng.
Yeah.
Live, can't, or both. Yeah.
I think that's mean the live vehicles or presentation here. That's mean some information input go directly to the test taker, and here that mean I don't know how to explain.
Example is easier to see. Bạn nào có thể cho cô một cái ví dụ hình dung ra không?
Cô giống như lúc nãy có cái ví dụ là nếu mà nghe máy thì gọi là can, phải không?
Đúng rồi, chính xác. Nghe máy. Hồng Ngọc tiêm xong rồi nè. Rồi, mình có cái ví dụ nào for example in speaking test, right? A speaking test. So there may be, different parts. We have live part where the examiner, right, talk to the candidates. We call that one the live one. Okay? Yeah. There's a part where the examiner give, the candidates a card with a topic, and the candidates have to process it. We call that one can. Right. And yeah, as in that, in the speaking test, we have two parts, right? The live and the can. So we say both. But if, for example, if you give the students a written test, so vehicle presentation is can or live. Đối với bạn, khi mình cho người học thi một cái bài mà theo cái dạng mà viết, thì cái input của nó là live hay là can các bạn?
Vậy nó là can đúng không cô?
Can, đúng rồi, can. Rồi. Nhưng mà những cái bài thi phỏng vấn, oral, right? Oral test mà các bạn có cái examiner mà họ đặt câu hỏi trực tiếp, thì lúc đó là live. Nó có hai dạng. Có những cái bài thường là bài thi speaking nó gồm cả hai dạng luôn. Bài IELTS hoặc là bài trong VSTEP có một phần thì giám khảo hỏi, có một phần thì lại là nó nhìn cái topic có sẵn, người đi thi nhìn vô cái topic có sẵn và trả lời, thì cái phần thì nó là combination, right? We have both. Okay. Thank you, Thuế.
Dạ, thank you cô, thank you.
Yeah, when you before taking this course, when you give tests to the students, what do you often do? When you design tests for the student, what do you often do? Do you think of those?
I think no. Because before I taking this course, mostly I will focus on testing the knowledge only, and I don't think about the rubric
right. So
input or response.
That's sensible, right? We check, we make sure that what we test is the content. We look for the content more than things around us, like input, right, environment, the rubric or whatever. Our focus is more on the content. What part of the lessons should you test, right? And we tend to accept, we tend to look around for available tests, right? And we use it, right, without, much of our effort into, modifying it, right? Changing certain parts in order to make it, fit our purpose and our situation. All right. Okay. So yeah, thank you, May. How about other people? Yeah, các bạn khác thì sao? Chắc là mời Hoan nha. Mời bạn Hoan.
Yes, good afternoon, teacher. So I have the same opinion with Miss May that we should look into the content of the test and the other elements surrounding to find out the most suitable
Okay,
suitable level of the student.
Right. It's true that the content should be looked at, at first. However, right, to go with the content, we have other things, right? Other issues, related issues. So I hope that, this somehow give you more information about, how to help the learners, how to help the candidate to show their best, right? So to give us accurate information of what we would like to explore, would like to investigate about the students' competencies, right? Okay.